Good evening, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm going to grab my water before I start. So, I thought the opportunity this evening was to do two things. First, it's to be reacquainted with the IIBN. It's been a pleasure and a privilege for me to get to know so many of the members of the IIBN over the years, particularly during my time in London. And as I was saying to a few people outside, as an Irishman who spent his entire working career outside of Ireland, it's really, really important the role that convening Irish bodies play in making sure that the diaspora remain both connected with each other, but also connected with Ireland. And IIBN does a fantastic job in doing that, and has particularly strong credibility among both the business community and among a younger generation of Irish diaspora, which is a really, really powerful thing. I'm going to talk about something completely different tonight. I can tell you lots of stories about being an Irishman abroad, but maybe that's for later. Tonight I wanted to share my thoughts on something that's really right at the core of what I do for a living, but it's also what my passion is. It's the role that digital, and particularly mobile, can play in what has commonly been called this fourth industrial revolution. Now, it's a guy called Klaus Schwab, who some of you may have heard of, and he founded the World Economic Forum. So if you've been lucky enough to be at Davos, it was probably Klaus who got you there. And he had this to say about the promise and the challenges of a new era that we're about to enter. So what he said, and I quote, is, "We stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another. In its scale, scope, and complexity, the transformation will be unlike anything humankind has experienced before. We do not yet know just how it will unfold, but the one thing that is clear is the response to it must be integrated, comprehensive, and involving all stakeholders of the global polity for the public and private sectors, academia, and civil society." And that's about solving world peace and world hunger. That is a real challenge. What he's saying, though, is the impact is going to happen. The choices we have is what we choose to do about it. By Schwab's definition, the first industrial revolution used water and steam power to mechanize production in the 18th century. Transformational from an industrial point of view, but transformational also from a societal point of view, because it created the big rural-urban shift. The second was to use electric power to create mass production in the 19th century, a further acceleration of urbanization and transformation of daily life. The third uses electronics and information technology to automate production in the 20th century. But now in this 21st century, this fourth industrial revolution is actually blurring the lines between what we classically define as the physical and the digital. It's basically recognizing that everything that can be connected will be. Some call it the cyber-physical era, building such technologies as AI, artificial intelligence, autonomous cars, robotics, biotechnology, to prime a fresh wave of innovation, all of it enabled by low latency, stupendous speeds, continuous ubiquitous connectivity of the next generation wireless technologies. And while we can't predict how or truthfully when all of these trends will achieve critical mass, it's my view, as was Schwab's, that our response must be that integrated, comprehensive, and involving all stakeholders. So what I want to do is try to frame out some of that. My honest view is that it would be no understatement to say that we're on the cusp of a defining moment in history, the shift from an analog to a digital world. We may even look back and mark this moment in time as the time we went from BC to AD, from before connectivity to after digital. So, as a European telecoms market veteran and a relative newcomer to the shores of the US, I'm lucky to be involved at this time when we're just glimpsing the first glimpses of this new world and what it might involve. In my first 18 months stateside, just inside our business in Verizon, we laid the tracks for the next generation of technology by launching 5G trials in 11 cities around the country, and we will actually launch a commercial 5G offering before the end of this calendar year. We're already on 4G, achieving 1 gigabit download speeds, crushing every speed test to date. As was mentioned in the introduction, we're now the proud owners of the Yahoo business, joining AOL and others under the Oath platforms and housing some of the best media assets and entertainment assets in the world. We've committed to rolling out 12 million miles of fiber in the US. Now, the US is a big country, but I can tell you 12 million miles is more fiber than everybody else put together. And of course, since I arrived, we did something some of you may have found impactful, which was we launched Unlimited in the US market. I could tell you over a drink what a challenge that might have been. What I will tell you is that the impact was to double the traffic on our network in the first 12 months. So all this proves how innovative and dynamic the US market is, and the truth is, so the same is happening all over the world. So the great news is that we're on the brink of this transformation. Wireless has already had a huge impact in our society, we all know that. With every generation of network technology, we've increased bandwidth, speed, functionality, making it possible for our customers to live more and for more of their lives to be on the mobile platform. But what's interesting is if you look at the economic impact, the truth is it hasn't been evenly distributed, not just geographically, but also in industries. The truth is those who have benefited most have actually been the digital industries themselves, those in information technology and communications, whose business models have adapted to the new digital paradigm. Many other industries simply haven't. So interesting, we all think of people like Uber, we think of them as a transformational business, and that they absolutely are. We think of Airbnb as a transformational business. But this idea of moving from an asset-based, production-based, to a supply-based service model, which both Uber and Airbnb do. Actually, GE in 1971 stopped selling aircraft engines. They started selling up hours for planes, for people who want to transport. It's exactly the same model shift. 1971. Here we are in 2018, admiring, no disrespect, people who are Johnny-come-latelys to a transformational possibility. What we have to do is get into that game now. And that's why I believe 5G is that game changer. Because 5G wireless technology isn't just another iteration of wireless innovation. 5G has the potential to join that very exclusive club. A handful of technologies through history have transformed industries across every sector of the economy, redefining work, elevating living standards, and having a profound and sustainable impact on our global economic growth. Think about innovations like the printing press, the steam engine, railroads and electricity, the internet itself. We're in that category. These are generally described by economists as GPTs, not very exciting name, but general purpose technologies. And because of the fact that their pervasive impact on everything around them. To give you an idea just of the impact of 5G, to put it in context, by 2035 it will enable $12.3 trillion of incremental global economic output and support 22 million jobs worldwide. 5G is also going to change society by transforming fundamentally how cities work, how healthcare gets delivered, and how we educate our children, a topic I want to come back to. As we deliver on the promise of 5G, our industry will be even more vital to the lives of customers and even more critical to the economic future of our country and our world. But truthfully, we in the telecom industry and our customers have some work to do. This evening I'd like to talk about some of what will make this next generation of mobile so different and so exciting, and how at Verizon we're trying to set the agenda for the future. I'd also like to talk about some of the challenges that we as an industry must step up to if we want to ensure that the benefits of technology are broadly, deeply, and fairly distributed. So let me start, if I can ask her to just play my first video.
There's something that's easy to forget. something that goes to the core of who we are. There's no this without this, no this without that, no AR, VR, AI, IoT, holograms, self-driving cars, or whatever it is that comes next. None of it without the network that comes next. That's why we're building this. We know how to build next-gen, 2G, 3G, FiOS, 4G LTE, LTE Advanced, 5G, and now, Intelligent Edge Network. So while everyone is talking about the incredible opportunities of the future, this, and even that, especially that, we're actually building the platform the future runs on.
Just to give you an idea, before the end of this year, you'll be walking down Manhattan Street and you will be able to stream 5 gigabits per second on a handheld device. Now, what I can tell you is why you would need to do that, but I can tell you it's possible. The whole idea about this is it's not about defining the solution, it's about creating the possibilities. And I want to tell you a little story, an anecdote that kind of brings that point to life. About 10 years ago, I had the privilege of going to see the BBC and to visit the head of digital at the BBC, who's actually a New Yorker from Time Warner. So when I got there, we talked about what was the impact of digital on the BBC. He told me this story, which I found absolutely fascinating. He said the first 10 years of radio, the first 10 years of television was radio in front of a camera. Just think about that for a second. The new medium of television simply observed the old medium of radio for 10 years. That's the moment we're at in the adoption of technology. We're simply doing what we always did and doing it slightly more efficiently, slightly faster, maybe slightly lower cost. I think this next generation, 5G, will require us to rethink what can be done on wireless platforms and deliver fundamentally new services that will permeate the economy in 3 fundamental ways. First, with 5G, we'll be able to extend mobile broadband to more people through fixed wireless technology. The truth is you will never need to have a cable anywhere again. We're talking about deep, ubiquitous connectivity. It'll also expand the boundaries of mobile broadband experience beyond data and video. Think about things like 3D, hologram, AR, VR, and increasingly MR, mixed reality. Truly immersive experiences that will put gamers in the middle of the game, colleagues across the globe in the same virtual room, teachers and students in boundaryless global classrooms. All of that is different from today's experience on TV. As Game of Thrones is, from those who are old enough to remember, I Love Lucy. That's the opportunity. It's transformational change. 5G will also enable the Internet of Things to be deployed on a truly, truly massive scale. To give you an idea, today there are some 7.5 billion connected things. Within 4 to 5 years, that will be 25 billion connected. Our analysis also finds the main benefits of that 5G IoT solutions that will be in the B2B market as businesses use IoT to manage their businesses fundamentally differently, driving transformational change inside their organizations. Third, with multi-gigabit speeds and blink-of-an-eye response times, 5G will be a critical component of mission-critical services that dramatically improve the safety and security of our society. We've all heard of driverless cars, but if I tell you the ultra-high frequency radio waves that we will use for our 5G service in cities means that in the cacophony of noise in a city like New York, our radio spectrum and our network will identify a gunshot out of everything and anything that's happening in a busy, live city and fingerprint it and pinpoint it to a tight location to within millimeters, potentially, and be able to provide that information to the city services. That is fundamentally transformational in the impact that it can have. So, to give you an idea of the possibilities, we did a trial at the Indianapolis 500, which I've been to IndyCar before, but I had the pleasure of going. So what we did just to make it fun was we took an IndyCar driver, we put them in a high-powered saloon car, and then we blacked out the car completely and said, congratulations, put on a head cam and watch what's happening outside on 5G. And then asked them to drive down the oval at 100 miles an hour. That requires low latency, because I guarantee you if you're a split second behind, that's a bad thing at 100 miles an hour on an oval. Flawless, seamless, that's the sort of thing that low latency can do. If I give you an idea about why low latency makes a difference, we've all heard of autonomous cars, driverless cars, and it will happen through a combination of mobile networks, but also sensors in cars. But the difference between the latency, which for those who aren't familiar is the click to bang. You know, if you're a gamer, you know what click to bang is. It's when you get your retaliation in first or not. It's the response time that the network takes to respond to an instruction. Well, the difference between a 4G network and a driverless car and a 5G network and a driverless car is the difference between a response time at 60 miles an hour of 4 feet or 4 inches. I know which car I prefer to be in these circumstances. But it starts to give you a sense of why these what seem like narrowly defined things are fundamentally transformational in what they can do. So hopefully I'm whetting your appetite. Suffice it to say that 5G enables us to do more than just reach day-to-day consumers with 10 to 100 times better throughputs. Sustainability of your battery, 10x improvement, and the capacity to carry 1,000 times the mobile data that we carry today. My vision is that, and our industry's vision must be that 5G opens up opportunity that our society, the best opportunities that our society has ever experienced, turning connectivity truly into possibilities for everyone and everything. At Verizon, of course, we're not simply waiting for this fourth industrial revolution. We're building it, or we're building the foundations on which it will be built. We're already laying the tracks, as I mentioned, with the infrastructure work that we're doing. There's massive speed improvements that we're already getting on the 4G network, and our commitment to the launch of 5G later in the year. 5G with its massive bandwidth and high speed brings the prospect of another fundamental innovation, which is massive computing power distributed to the very edge of a mobile network. Why would that matter? Because we have massive computing power and Amazon and other people can provide that to us. The answer is because your device requires to do a significant amount of computing now, because of the delay times, even in a fiber network, more of what you need to do needs to be powered in your device. If you can compute at the edge, I'll give you a simple example. In a smart city, a camera on the street that requires to do visual recognition probably costs $10,000 because what it needs to do is compute on the site and then send data back to a database to check. The ability to put that compute power into the edge of the network means a $100 camera can be put on the street. That is transformational in the deployment. Think about the fact that you may not need a $1,000 device to do AR and VR offline, or a $100 device where all of that computing is done. And suddenly what you might have thought were edge use cases become mass market adoption possibilities. That's what the impact of edge computing can be. Now I want to turn to a broader piece, and that's solving the big social problems. Of course, the wireless industry has proven time and again that we can solve the most daunting engineering challenges that technology can throw our way. We've also shown we can innovate and deliver products and services that enrich customers' lives and improve the quality of life in society. But every generational shift in technology brings new challenges, not all of which are technical. For us to realize the full potential of 5G to be one of those game-changing technologies, we need to address both the human and the social impediments to realizing the promise of the digital world. For example, I mentioned before that mobile and digital technologies haven't always permeated every industry equally. As a whole, The US is only reaching 18% of its digital potential based on a recent survey. There's a massive disparity between sectors that have been early digital adopters and those that haven't. One study finds that for every dollar spent per worker in traditional industries, digital industries are spending $8. A massive change. Call it the industrial digital divide. It's leaving billions in productivity gains and innovation capacity on the table. Just look at what Amazon has been able to create in a short period of time. And then think about what massive growth industries like agriculture and manufacturing could achieve through digital transformation. Now, to bridge this divide, we need to meet these customers where they live, offering them not just technology, but solutions that speak their language and address their business problems. As a result of Verizon, we have this one unifying mission to give people the ability to do more in this world. We help people communicate with each other. We let people connect to everyone and everything, and we enhance the ability of people, business, and society with the kind of functionality and reliability that we've been known for years. We're doing that today with solutions that help farmers optimize irrigation systems, telehealth solutions that connect patients with medical specialists, and asset tracking systems that secure the safety of our supply chains. So we're doing all that, but there's so much more that can be done. Accenture estimates that making cities smarter has the potential to create $500 billion in GDP growth by 2025. You know what? It isn't enough to expect the telecommunications companies such as ours rolling out infrastructure to simply deliver a digital economy, let alone a leader in the digital world. We need leadership, creativity, and education to provide the US with the entrepreneurs with the digital skills to leverage that infrastructure, and particularly the digital opportunity to create real, broadly distributed value and growth. It's a really interesting piece of data point that in many countries, digital literacy among unemployed young people is higher than the digital literacy of the general workforce. Just think about that for a second. In an environment where we know that the economy is short of digital skills, the fact that some of our brightest, most capable people are actually missing out. The truth is, the digital revolution represents the greatest opportunity since the Industrial Revolution, yet we're not making sure that it's accessible to many. In my view, education, in fact, is probably the most critical challenge of all, because for all the potential digital technology has to democratize access to opportunity, far too many communities, and therefore far too many young people in the US have yet to benefit from the digital revolution. At Verizon and through our Verizon Foundation, we've been working with the award-winning documentarian Rory Kennedy and National Geographic to truly better understand the consequences of this digital divide for America's disadvantaged youth. What we've learned is troubling and frankly heartbreaking. What this tells me is that we have a lot of untapped talent waiting at our doorstep. Now we need to answer that call. Verizon is helping to close this gap by delivering high-quality technology to underserved inner cities in rural America, and developing STEM education solutions that bridge the gap between talent and opportunity. We've committed some $400 million, helping already 1 million children to date, and will impact an additional 5 million by 2023. Cara, if you'd like to run the second video.
You know, the digital divide is splitting this country. We have parents who are trying to get their kids off of too much social media and computers, and then we have parents who would only hope their children have access.
Middle school is a really key transition point, right? The stakes start changing, students begin to really start thinking about their futures and what their life is going to be like. So it's a key point in life to be exposed to technology.
If we do not prepare kids for the 21st century, they're going to be relegated to marginal employment, and we're going to have to pay for that. What I like about Verizon's approach is that it's not limited to just giving kids new tools. It's really about empowering educators to teach in different ways and exposing kids to more active forms of learning.
Giving technology is not a total solution. Teaching technology, now that is.
It's a very modern take on a very old parable. You can give a man a fish or you can teach a man to fish. The truth is, it's not about providing technology, it's about educating people in the opportunity that technology provides. The truth is, for any society, any economy, if you deny young people access to technology or asking them to play the 21st century game with only half a deck of cards, but if we democratize access to this breathtaking, powerful technology, then more than 6 million projected tech jobs will be created in the US by 2020. And they will be theirs for the taking. I have a strong and passionate view that the greatest asset every society has is its young people. They're simply amazing. Now it's about making sure that we match their talent to the opportunity that's there. I have the privilege of knowing, it's the only name dropping I'll do this evening, but I have the privilege of knowing Will I am. And Will and I have done quite a few things together over the years because we both share this passion for STEM, education for young people, and technology. He also builds like mobile phones and stuff as well, for those of you who don't know. But millennials, I went on a panel to talk about millennials, and Will was on before me and explained that nobody called them millennials, only 50-year-old cornballs, which is a new expression to me, but maybe one familiar to the rest of you. So, millennials, or as my friend Will says, squeenagers, which you can use, but it's just a brilliant, brilliant description, will make up 75% of the workforce by 2025. What does that all mean for us as business and the leaders of those companies? We have a responsibility to lobby for better digital education, foster entrepreneurialism, and to ensure that the conditions for success of this new digital world are in place. For us, deploying the infrastructure is simply not enough. If connectivity is the oxygen of modern life, then in my view, data is the fuel that will power our economy in this 21st century. This idea of ubiquitous connectivity to people and data will enable the next wave of change, often described as the information economy. But as we know all too well in the recent days, personal data will become right at the heart of that conversation. It's a powerful resource, with more than one expert predicting that will become a genuine currency. Never mind your cryptocurrencies. Data may well be a real currency of the future, especially among the digital native generation. This data-fueled economy, though, as we know, is not without issues to tackle. Concerns highlighted even more recently about data privacy must be addressed if consumer trust is to be established and to enable the development of an information economy where consumers are happy to exchange their data in return for the services they value. When I was the CEO in a last business in the UK, we actually undertook one of the largest private pieces of research around digital confidence, and we called it the digital dialogue. And what that research told us were the 3 key ingredients to ensure digital confidence among citizens and consumers. The first is there needs to be informed choice. People want to make informed decisions that make a difference on how their information is used. It seems obvious, but clicking the box after the 47 pages that you've scrolled through is that informed choice. They want meaningful options. Concerns relating to the sharing of personal data are not the principle of sharing per se, but about losing control over who has access to it and for what it's used. I did that research a couple of years ago, couldn't be more topical than it is today. So, third and critical thing is, when you've established those 2 pillars, the last and critical one is mutual benefit. Consumers and companies can both benefit from sharing information. People recognize that there are potential benefits to them, but at present, they do not see how they are realized for them as consumers. So there is a roadmap which can create the conditions in which people can confidently embrace an information economy and have the benefit of real, deep personalization that will bring them more of the things they value and on their terms. That is the opportunity. So let me pull the pieces together in conclusion to say, the initiatives that I've described only just begin to scratch the surface to explore the frontiers of innovation and social change that the fourth industrial revolution will open. But I believe we've learned enough from these early experiences to see what our industry must do to ensure that the benefits of these next generation technologies are spread widely and equitably across our society. First, we must come together as technology and business leaders around a shared set of values and advocate with a single voice for using technology as a force for good. Second, just as we've learned to create viable ecosystems to advance our infrastructure goals, so too we must create viable ecosystems to support our social goals. Deploying infrastructure is only half the battle. The other half is building coalitions with partners in government, non-profit schools and universities, and local businesses around shared priorities that will deliver meaningful change to the communities we serve. The kind of integrated and comprehensive response that Klaus Schwab told us would be required for that fourth industrial revolution. And third, we must work conscientiously to build public trust in technological solutions by delivering those things that matter most to our customers: safer, more secure communities, education that prepares students for the digital economy and matches talent to opportunity, businesses that run more efficiently, and local economies that attract and grow the jobs of the future. If we do this right, we can do well and do good. So, in conclusion, I believe our industry is primed to build the railroads of the future and become one of the vital industries of the 21st century, transforming how we work, play, and live. At Verizon, we don't wait for the future. We build it. Thank you.